It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another episode of Remodel Revolution. We're coming to you from deep in the heart of the great state of Texas, from the world headquarters of Remodel Revolution. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie, and I'm here today with we got a great show today. We have a lady that is an amazing lady. She's an editor of a magazine, of Renovation and Remediation magazine, and we're going to talk about coronavirus, disinfecting for coronavirus. I thought that was kind of timely. And so Michelle Blevins is going to join us in a minute, and we're going to have a discussion with her. Also, my good friend, Donnie Mack with Beaver Builders is going to be on with us in a little bit. We're going to talk about building houses and the things that Donnie's been up to and his company. And also some point during the show, as soon as the traffic allows him to get here, Steve Lawton is going to come in and he'll finish up co-hosting with us, but we're going to talk to Steve about some stuff as well. So I wanted to first go to Michelle and visit and introduce you to Michelle Blevins with Renovation and Remediation magazine. Hello, Michelle.
Hello there. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thanks for getting that. Now, of course, you're early. Where are you?
I'm in Michigan, so it's just an hour ahead of time.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were up anyway. How's
Yes.
how's the weather there? Is it snowing?
You know what? It's not today. It's trying to be sunny, but it's still cold in the 30s.
It's cold. Here's freezing. Here it's like in the 50s. Okay.
Oh my gosh. How can you handle it? It's terrible.
You know, for us that's cold. Let's talk a little bit about Restoration and Remediation magazine. And I keep calling it Renovation. Do I have that right? It's Restoration and Remediation?
It's Restoration and Remediation.
I
Yep.
apologize. It's hard for me.
That's all right.
Let's talk about your magazine and kind of give us a rundown on what it is and who's it for and who are your subscribers and the history of it.
Perfect. Okay, so the magazine has been around for about 13 years at this point. I have been the editor-in-chief for 5 years. I have to say that I really love it. It's a great industry full of really good people who care a lot about their customers and clients, since a lot of my readers are contractors who are dealing with homeowners who have had a flood or a fire in their home, something like that. We have about 20,000 readers across the U.S. That get our magazine every single month. We have pretty healthy web traffic on top of that. We have a big web and social media presence. I guess I'm not sure what the remodeling industry is like, but there are a lot of restorers who are pretty active on Facebook, so we try to be as well and keep conversations engaged there.
Well, there's a lot of crossover with remodelers and the remediation business,
Yes.
and of course the restoration business. It all kind of ties together at some point. If you're a remodeler, a lot of times that's what we're called in to deal with. And for a lot of us, we don't even really understand a lot of the dynamics of particularly remediation. You know, for a remodeler, it used to be, well, just spray some bleach on it. It'll be okay.
No.
So your magazine is what really caught my eye this week, and I'm a subscriber, so I get I don't know, notifications 3 or 4 times a week. And the one that I really caught my eye was disinfecting for coronavirus. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Tell us about that.
Okay, so something that I've been working on over the last few weeks since the coronavirus really started hitting headlines is finding education from credible people in the restoration industry to help restorers kind of get ahead of the fears that people have. I'm sure most people agree that there is quite a bit of fear surrounding this, and there maybe doesn't need to be. It's not more deadly than the regular flu. It's just something new, something that we haven't dealt with before. So I have been trying to get education out. You can look on R&R's website. It's rnrmagonline.com. There are several articles and press releases up there from products and companies in the industry who have proven that they are effective against viruses like the coronavirus. No one, I don't believe, has tested their products directly against coronavirus. It would be very hard to get that specific virus to test against. But they've tested against things similar and proven that their products are very effective. So something that I've been working on is an upcoming roundtable article that will hopefully be posted on our website by Monday with some industry experts and scientists to talk about how contractors can get ahead of the scare and the fear in their communities. If your community is like ours, I've seen our school district put out a notice, a letter to parents letting them know, hey, we're keeping up with the CDC. We're watching what they're saying. We're staying on top of this. Don't worry. But there's even the potential for contractors to get in with schools or hospitals or nursing homes or what have you with these high quality disinfectants or other products or machines to help disinfect, period, so that there isn't concern that this could enter your environment. I mean, there are even machines out there that have been proven effective to kill the virus if it's in the air. So I think contractors are in a really good position to help their communities ease any fears for parents, school districts, what have you, by being educated about how to disinfect against viruses like this and other viruses that might happen.
So part of your the article I read and something that I think is really, really important is the contractors themselves and their workers have to be protected when they're in there working. What are your findings there?
Yes, it's always important to have the right PPE, whether that be respirators or Tyvek suits or what have you. That's really important. I guess as a funny side note to that, with the craze, there has been a shortage of the N95 masks. They've pretty much sold out at a lot of different places, but it's proven that the particles are actually smaller and small enough to get through masks.
If you can breathe air, you can breathe in the particles. Right. Yeah.
And there's also a possibility, when you take off the mask, you could be getting germs, yes, in the mask. You could be touching it. I mean, so the masks, unfortunately, aren't going to do you probably a whole lot of good if you're wearing them at the airport or something like that, maybe. But the contractors do still need masks for going into situations where they are going to do disinfecting. And I saw a post on one of our Facebook pages over the weekend where somebody ran into the back of a Sprinter van belonging to a restoration contractor and stole 4 boxes of those masks
out of the back. Really?
And as they're running away, said, "Charge my insurance company." So,
oh my
gosh,
don't
need to be doing that.
Well, I mean, you have to. One of the things we have to educate our employees that if they're going to be going into this environment, even if they're a remediation, they have to protect their families too. So we have to teach them how to make sure they don't just take it home with them. That's
right. Yes, that's very important. It's important whenever contractors are going into a situation like this to make sure that they're as protected as possible.
So what is an enveloped virus? What does that mean?
You know what? I cannot say that I am completely educated enough to answer that question. The article that we are looking at was written by somebody who is high up in the, American Biorisk Association.
Okay. So he's a nerd. He's a nerd. Okay. I get it.
He's very intelligent.
No. I mean, no, I didn't mean that.
Yes, I know. Nerd is a good thing.
Nobody's called me a nerd lately.
And they won't.
And they won't. Donnie says they won't. Thank you, Donnie.
I think the whole idea is that the coronavirus doesn't exist kind of on its own. So it's not going to last forever out on its own if it's not.
Well, I mean, like all viruses and flu strains, eventually nature takes its course and it takes it away. It's like we keep hearing on the news from certain people. There will be an end to this at some point.
Yes.
And so I think that's very interesting. Well, that was very interesting. So what do you have coming up? What do we have to look forward with in your magazine? You have a lot of articles that you come up with weekly. The coronavirus, I know, is consuming everybody right now, but do you have anything else interesting coming up?
One thing that I know you and I were talking about a little bit before the show, we have another article coming up. We've published several articles over the last few years on the myth that remodelers might face as well, that you can dry a structure after a flood in 3 days, which is generally not the case, especially depending on the environment. You know, if you're somewhere humid like Texas or elsewhere, you're probably not drying a structure in 3 days.
I've never even heard that. Where is that coming from?
You know what? It came, I believe, from insurance carriers, maybe even a decade ago.
This setup.
In our industry, the contractors often have to have their scope of work and their estimate approved by the insurance carrier to get covered by insurance before they can do the work. And so the carrier wants to know, hey, how long is this going to take to dry the structure? And it used to be that it just kind of got in people's heads that, hey, if you can't dry a structure in 3 days, you're doing something wrong. But we're trying
let's define drying a structure. You're talking about if there is a flood or a leak in, say, through the roof, or somehow water gets inside a home and does damage that has to be repaired by an insurance company. There's a process that you go through to dry that out. And that'll be a series of dehumidifiers, of course, cleaning, removing wet material, removing wet carpet and wet padding, things like that. And then there's a period where you put a dehumidifier, or 5, they'll put a bunch of them in there and run them 24 hours a day until they reach a certain level of humidification in the air.
Mm-hmm. And it also requires to know if structure is dry using like a moisture meter or something like that can go into the substrate, into the subfloor, what have you, to make sure that actually the internal parts of maybe wood or concrete or whatever it may be, to make sure that all of those surfaces are actually to the dry standard, whatever the standard is for that specific material.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're running these drying machines and these dehumidifiers, there's you can't really put a timeline on it. You're not trying to reach a timeline. You're trying to reach a certain level of dehumidification to tell you that the moisture is gone, or is acceptable, meets more of a normal standard. And so I kind of understand where you're going with this. Now, if someone's out there saying, well, that can be done in X amount of days, that's ridiculous. I mean, I can't even imagine why anybody would say something like that.
Every material is different.
Actually, I can understand why they would say it and who say it. So the insurance company would like for that dryer to be out of there in 3 days.
It's much less on the claim if they can really get it dried in 3 days. So.
Yeah. Well, so that's interesting. So you're going to run. You have some articles coming up on that. Some more information down the road on this.
Yep, there's going to be another article coming up in the April issue, and I would quickly say also the cover of our March issue might be of some interest to some of your viewers. I did want to let everyone who's watching know that R&R is free to subscribe to. All you have to do is go to our website and click the subscribe on button that's on the top right. It's totally free. You can get digital, print, whatever you prefer. So another topic that we're covering is how drones and thermal imaging are being used for roofing projects.
Oh, yeah.
So, so that's going to be the cover story of our March issue, which actually the article is already up on our website. So that might be
thermal imaging and drones are have evolved to the point. I mean, it's happened rapidly, and there's a lot more people that are licensed to do both, and you have to be licensed to do both. And so it's quite interesting. Yeah, I like that. I really appreciate you coming on and spending time with us this morning. It's been a great conversation. I look forward to having more of them with you. And tell us how to our clients our listeners how to reach your website again.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me, Alex. I appreciate it. So our website is randrmagonline.com, right there on the bottom. Lots of free articles and stuff on there. And again, if you want to subscribe for free, you can subscribe right on the homepage there. It's simple. We also have a weekly newsletter you can sign up for to get the latest headlines and stuff like that affect
Michelle Blevins with Restoration and Remediation Magazine. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
I already.
Oh, you already? Yeah.
Sorry.
You already cut her off. Okay. All right. Well, Have a wonderful day anyway, Michelle. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're gonna put Donnie Mack with Beaver Builders under the spotlight. We're going to wear him out. We'll be right back. The hardest working and arguably most important system in our homes is our air conditioning and heating system. It heats the air, it cools the air, and it filters the air. That's why it's so critical to have it checked and maintained by the very best professionals available. It's time to contact Total Air and Heat at totalair.com. Get that system pruned and tuned. If you want to have the very best experience, you've got to hire the very best company. Total Air's employees are honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background checked. I never have to worry about sending their technicians out to my clients' homes. Family owned and operated for 3 generations, Total Air and Heat has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. Total Air is a proud dealer of the Trane air conditioning systems, and you know how hard it is to stop a train, so give them a call at 972-881-0020. That's 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today. Well, in my travels, I got lost one time. I went the wrong way, took this long road. I ended up in, the middle of nowhere. I ended up in this place called Borger, Texas. Borger, Texas is, well, I'll just say this. The people in Borger, Texas, when you ask them if you're in the middle of nowhere, they say, no, you're in the middle of somewhere. We just don't know where. So I ran into this guy there. I met this guy, Donnie Mack. And I thought, Borger, Texas, how could a person be from that place? Are you from Borger, Texas?
Actually, I'm not from Borger, Texas. I'm from about 10 miles outside of Borger, Texas, called Fritch, Texas.
I didn't know there was anything outside of Borger, Texas. There's actually another town.
There's a town. There's a big lake called Lake Meredith. That, the playground of the Panhandle. And
the playground of the Panhandle of Texas.
That's
right. Right.
Got a lot of fish, a lot of good people out there. And
meet my friend Donnie Mack. He's the owner of Beaver Builders, and Donnie and I have been friends for a long time, as you can tell. And Donnie is a super high-end home builder. And he builds a lot on acreage. He's a country. He hadn't left his roots. So if you got acreage, if you're out in the middle of somewhere and you want to build a house, you call Donnie. If you're in North Texas, but welcome to the show.
Glad you had me. I appreciate you letting me do this.
Oh, sure. So let's talk a little bit about your clientele, because you have people that are calling you and they're saying, hey, Donnie, I just bought 100 acres and I want to put a house on it. How do you, where do you go from there with them? I mean, if I bought 100 acres and I'm driving down the road and I see this beautiful big piece of property, or somebody's trying to sell their old dairy farm, and I've got the money after my wife wins the lotto. And I decided to buy this, and I called Donnie, and I decided I want to build a house. And I find this big hill on the property, and it's overlooking a valley with black and white cows in it. And I called Donnie, and I go, is this where I should build my house? What's your advice to somebody like that? I mean, what is it? How do you decide where's the best spot to do this?
The best thing to do is sit down with the client and see how they want to use that land. If you're going to buy 100 acres, you don't want to buy land to look at it. There's
Really?
Probably a reason you want to do that. And it may be the fact that you want to build a home and then put out some barns for cattle or horses or whatever it may be, but there's a function you want to use for that land. And so we'll sit down and we'll walk the land and get an idea of just what they expect out of it.
So because if you're going to have livestock, and let's say you have cattle, well, they poop a lot. They make a big old mess, and you don't want to build your house down there where the mess is going to end up, right?
Well, that depends. The smell of the
smell of the money.
Of the money. It depends. You may like that smell. Not everybody does, but sometimes they smell that and say, that's money being made.
I'll just tell you,
or being lost.
somebody from the Panhandle of Texas, when they smell poop, that's what they smell is money. So that's where that comes from, just so everybody understands that. So when you're like, let's say I buy this property and it's got this nice big hill on it, and I want to build my house up there. I go, Donnie, this is where I want to put the house. What would you advise, and what would you look at to see if that is actually the best place to put the house?
Well, you come down to earth and you think about it. What all does the house need? The house needs, you need the power, you need water, and you need a septic system. So you bring it in, then you push it back out again. So where are those amenities within the perimeter where that land is? Where are you going to be bringing it in at? Will it be within a quarter mile, a mile for the power? Is there a water line close by? If there's no water feed close by, then maybe it will be a water well you got to put on site. Mm-hmm. There's all kind of ways to accommodate the needs that you require for your house, but there's also all kind of expenses for those needs.
So, like water doesn't naturally go uphill, but everything else goes naturally downhill. In other words, your sewer, everything, if that's going downhill, that's good. But if your water's going uphill, that's not always good. Like if you have a well and you're down below your slab level or your plumbing, then you have to pump water. So there's all these like little facets of decision making, right?
Right.
Yeah, and then you've got the power. So this is what Donnie's talking about. Sometimes you've got to put in power and drag it through, I don't know, a couple of miles or a long distance from a county road to the building site, right?
It's the distance, and then you'll have to have transformers set every so many 100 feet along the way. So all that stuff is the expense that goes in the cost to bring power in. And so
is that typically an expense that the home owner would do, or does sometimes the county, the power provider put that in?
Well, the beauty about deregulation 20 years ago is now everything goes through subcontractors, and then the power company has all kind of profit centers for making the extra funds. So at one time there was, depending on the amount of usage you will have for your equipment or for your home, the county would help compensate part of those costs, but now you don't see that much anymore.
Mm-hmm. So is there a reason to use alternative energy sources like wind or solar? Does that help out with all of that?
I would think it would help, but I'm not sure if the economies of scale are there for that yet. I mean, there's a lot of opportunities out there and options to look at, but I don't know if they're feasible enough to. I know it wouldn't be a primary source, but a secondary source, and that may be something you want to consider going to a generator.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. You almost always can count on, if you're living out in the middle of somewhere, that sooner or later the power's going to go out. And so your alternative source, you've got two basic choices, I guess. And one would be a generator, and the other would be something like a solar array, which you see more and more now. It's more and more common, that has a power storage system, a battery system. But I think the best of both worlds would be to have both. How are when you're making a decision on a generator, if you're building a house that's 3,500 or 5,000 feet or however big they are, do you need to get a generator that's going to supply power for the entire house, or how do you generally set that up?
Well, it goes back to the individual and what their purpose for the home would be. Is it a weekend getaway that they just spend out there the weekends, or do they spend the whole time out there? Mm-hmm. And then if you spend the whole time out there, do you office out of the house? Do you have any kind of specific needs, such as a internet, or do you have a medical need that you can't lose power? Mm-hmm. We do 2 or 3 generators a year on our homes, and generally those generators are tied to specific purpose of the house, either the HVAC, the heating and air system, or or a home office. It may be both, or it may be the whole house. We've done one with the whole house, but most of them have a specific area that they break off for the generators.
So how are you typically running those generators off propane or diesel, or what kind of fuel source do you use for those?
The ones that we've put in have been all propane. So you size the tank according to the necessities of the house, plus the generator, and then it's generally adds a couple of hundred, maybe 500 gallons tank size to the unit to accommodate.
So you just put a bigger propane tank out there that will handle both.
Correct.
I see, and that could be big.
It could be real big.
That could be real big. Do you do a lot of solar? Do your clients asking you for any solar at all? I'm curious about that because it seems like it's come a long way. It seems like I'm seeing more and more solar panels up on houses. I was wondering if they had made it more affordable. We're actually going to be doing a show here in a couple of weeks with a solar guy, and we're going to talk about storage. I wanted to do a show on battery storage because they've come along so well. And what about, wind generation was a big deal. I still see a lot of wind generators on rural properties. Do you do any of that?
We haven't done either one of those. We've had some companies come through the office and want to sell us the solar, but there's no economies of scale. From what I'm seeing, in my humble opinion, is that by the time you pay for the solar, and then over time, it with no maintenance at all, you're still looking at about a 40-year payback. And I don't know that would be beneficial with clients we've spoken with.
Okay, well, that's interesting.
And then you got to consider, if you put the solar panels on your roof, what happens when you have hail damage? Do you pull the panels off, and whose expense is that to pull that off? I guess the insurance companies have the deductible.
You country guys are so practical. It drives us city boys crazy. No, I've often wondered about having all those panels on the roof, how that would affect any type of maintenance that you may have to do, because it does seem like it'd be a problem. So we've got the house situated, and we're not 100% against putting it on top of the hill, right? But you've got other things besides utilities to consider if you're going to build on top of the hill. I'm focused on this hill because I would pick the highest spot for the view. That's why I'm out there. But if you're going to build a house on top of the hill on your piece of property, you have the utility issues we just spoke about, but then you have other things. You have access to it. And then if the house is up here, you've got, every time you want to get into the house, you have to walk up, or you have to build up to drop, so you can, you have a lot of backfill and things like that.
A lot of things to consider when you build on top of the hill is, why is that hill there? Is it because it's solid rock underneath the hill and you can't, and it's hard to penetrate it? Is that going to be an additional expense to the house? And then, putting the footing in.
So we're talking about when you do the foundation,
Yeah.
The considerations for the foundation. So when you do a foundation, you're going to do a support structure around it of beams and things like that. And those have to be dug into the ground a certain distance. Now, I've done a couple of room additions on houses in Dallas where I actually had to jackhammer the rock to get enough room to get the foundation in. Didn't bother me too much, as I knew I would not be getting callbacks for a cracked foundation. But you still have to get the support structure in. And so what Donnie's talking about is, when you have a hill, is it a dirt hill or is it a rock hill? That's basically what you're saying.
That's correct.
Yeah. So if it's a dirt hill, we just dig it out flat and put the house up there. If it's a rock hill, we have to have a big discussion.
Build it up higher and put your own dirt in there.
Build your own hill. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have more with Donnie, and then we're going to have our friend Steve Lawton, who finally got through traffic, and he's ready to talk. He's been saving up all the way from wherever he came from. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Sometimes it's a question of, do I call or don't I call the foundation repair company? Well, what if I tell you that I know a foundation repair company that will tell you if you don't need foundation repair? That's right. Hargrave & Hargrave Foundation Repair has been in business for over 50 years, and they know the difference. One of the last family-owned foundation repair businesses in North Texas. Not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Hargrave and Hargrave Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415. At the first sign of trouble, Hargrave uses the Chance helical pier system exclusively because it's the highest quality, most reliable helical pier money can buy. 972-442-3415 or contact them at hargravefoundation.com. Well, it's a rare opportunity that I have two amazing individuals with me, two very successful people in the construction industry, and I kind of feel like when you hear about a peanut butter and banana sandwich. Well, I kind of feel like the banana. I've got Donnie Mack over here, and I've got Steve Lawton over here, and these guys shine in this business. And so, welcome, Mr.
Thanks.
Lawton.
Glad I can make it.
Steve was sort of stuck in traffic because we're having some weather here, and if we even discuss rainy weather, people start crashing into each other.
Yeah, I washed my car yesterday.
Yeah.
Caused it to rain today.
trying to make sure the lake's filled up.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're talking to Donnie Mack, and we want to get to know a little bit about Donnie's business. We've been talking about the fact that Donnie builds a lot of large acreage tracts for people. That's sort of his specialty. Donnie, how long have you been in business? Tell us about Beaver Builders.
We started building custom homes in about 97. Prior to that, I've been remodeling, I don't know, 35, 40 years, something like that, off and on.
How old are you? You know,
I'm every bit of 29 years old.
That's what I thought.
I'm the same age as my mom, as a matter of fact.
Mine's 39.
But-
so you started out as a remodeling contractor in the Panhandle, or did you start your business down here?
Off and on, I've been remodeling most of my life. My grandfather and all those worked in the construction industry. My grandfather was a cabinet builder. My uncles are carpenters. My dad does some carpentry work, but
So it's in your blood.
it's in my blood.
It's in your blood. It's what you do. That's awesome. And so you come down here in 97, you got into this custom home building business.
97, we started building homes, and then in 99, when I joined the association, I knew I didn't know as much as I should. So it's picked up a
You're
lot.
talking about the Dallas Builders Association.
The Dallas Builders Association.
So you got around the real smart guys.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
where I met you, right?
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I still haven't gotten any credit for being smart, but I was there too. Maybe you smartened me up a little bit. What's the average size home you build, Donnie?
Well, I'll tell you, the goal of the average size is anywhere from about 2,500 up to 7,000 plus. But we like to think that we build homes for individuals. We like building from the young at age to the young at heart, with all types of accessibilities within the house.
Do you have a favorite part of being a home builder? What brings you the most joy being a home builder?
What brings me the most joy is to be able to build a home for someone with disabilities, that they can function within their home in a private manner and get around, live, and enjoy their living environment.
So are you talking about universal building?
Universal design. We do homes. We work a lot with the Veterans Administration, so we do homes for disabled veterans with anywhere from just a limb loss to the Lou Gehrig's disease, and that's what gives us the most gratification.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And of course, in remodeling, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people that needed it. And of course, part of my business is elevators, and that's always somebody that they call me about an elevator. It's because they need one. So I get that, and it does bring out your passion and your love for it, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. What is your favorite client? Do you have a fave? Like someone calls you up and say, "I'm so and so. I want to build a house," and you immediately go, "Man, I really am looking forward to working with this person."
We work with a lot of different personalities and a lot of different people, but my favorite client is an educated client that understands the industry and can understand a lot of the things and techniques that we do with our homes that we build.
And when you're dealing with somebody that has, let's just say, disabilities, is there a priority list of things that they need? I know everybody's going to be different, depends on what their disability is, but we've talked in Universal Building, for instance, about, making sure all the cabinets can be reached in the kitchen, all the appliances can be reached, all the light switches, things like that. Is there sort of a standard that you would start out with, a basic package for somebody like that?
Well, I believe the standard would be just to visit with them and get an idea of what the ADLs, the activities of daily living that they look for, and get an idea of their limitations. One beauty that we have is my wife, Michelle, is an occupational therapist, and she does consult with us occasionally to give us ideas. Another way is that, I teach the CAP certification program through the NAHB. And just through that information gathering, it allows me to apply that to our different clients and work with them to help them function within their home, whatever that may be. It may be raising the plugs up higher or dropping the light switches down or modifying the cabinets, but it may be something else that they need to help them live within their home.
I've had a couple of them that I would make a recommendation, and I'd say, maybe we need to do this or that, whatever it is. And they'll say, I don't want you to do anything different. I don't want to be treated like I've got a disability. I want to act like a normal person. How do you handle someone like that? Do you have to just kind of just show them the way?
Well, the key to that is make sure the house doesn't look handicapped. We want it to make it look like a normal home as much as possible. And a lot of times, just the subtle differences that we do within the homes that helps them out.
Yeah, but there's also some amazing things in the industry that have changed. I looked at one, and you can have cabinets that can motorized cabinets that'll raise up and down. What are some of the interesting features you've put in some of these houses?
I'll tell you, and it's not a feature that's very subtle, but it's a ceiling mounted Hoyer lift, where they can actually, go help themselves into the lift with a remote control, take themselves to the bathroom and pivot to the toilet area, to the shower area. And one of the first jobs we put that in. It was amazing to see the guys. He watered up that he could help himself and not have to depend on somebody else to help him.
Yeah, and that's always. I guess that's what we do. I know I did a house where the gentleman had polio, and we walked. I made him walk through everything that he did every morning, from the bedroom to the bathroom to the front door, and this guy still went to work every day. He was in his he was at the time he's in his probably 60s or 70s, and he was just an amazing human being. And so when you're doing these and you're faced with somebody that has physical challenges, that's sometimes what I end up doing. Another thing that I did that Steve would be interested in, I learned early on when I was working with people with particularly people that have mobility issues, that their circulation causes them to be cold. Is that have circulation? And
Typically, yeah.
Yeah. So we put in the first house I did for somebody. We put in a AC zone just in the bedroom and bathroom because she had to keep that house at 80 degrees to be comfortable.
And you and I melt at that temperature.
Yeah. So, sweat like a you-know-what. I had another lady that another client that her husband was in a wheelchair, and she kept telling me that he was fight him when they were going to take him and and bathe him, and he couldn't talk, but he would get real physical. And I said, well, he's cold. And she goes, we didn't really think about that. And I said, well, you're freezing him every time you do this. And so you have to put a zone in just in that bedroom and that bathroom, and you need to crank that baby up where it's hot, where you guys are really hot before you take him to bathe him. And they did that. We did that for him, and it worked out really well for him. But as you do these, you start understanding how these people with these disabilities, and it's not always a circulatory disability. It could be a missing limb. It could be any number of things. And so you have to sort of analyze what their needs are It's in doing that, you become close to them. You care about them.
You do, and then especially with some of the worse or whatever that word is, disease with like Lou Garrett's. There's been times we worked with them on design stage, and by the time we was ready to actually start, they had passed, and it makes it tough.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
then with a lot of the clients, you just meet with them and see how they interact within their environment, and you get an idea how you can modify or build new to help them out.
I had that happen. I had a client that had cancer, got
Yeah.
diagnosed when we started the job, and when by the time we finished, we were at his funeral, and it was really unfortunate. But we ended up becoming very close with the family and with his widow, and we still do work for him. This was many years ago, and so it's a fascinating part of home building and being. I always tell my clients, we're going to get to know you really well when we're remodeling your houses. We're kind of living with you, like it or not,
Yeah.
ready or not. So,
I would think heated floors is also something that might help people out. I mean, every house I've been into with heated floors, the people really like the fact that their feet are warm. And I mean, when you're sitting down, it's also warmer, is in that
Yeah.
same zone because air stratifies. And how about heated floors? You do any of those?
We have one going now in Corinth or Lake Dallas area that would have heated floor in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure about the other areas of the house, but I guess you walk in the bathroom, you're barefooted.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have something warm to walk on.
Absolutely.
well, in particular, since they're all full of marble and stuff now,
I tell
and
you,
yeah.
cold and slick.
Yeah, no, and now heated floors. And if you're gonna build a house and you're considering heated floors for your primary heating in this part of the country, it's not a great idea. What we found early on, many years ago, when we really started doing it, and it really started in my world in remodeling when we started using all of this natural stone, probably in the early 80s and 90s, where we got to where we're putting marble and granite everywhere. What happens is when you use a radiant floor system, and you heat up that floor in the house as your primary heat, it takes a long time to get that warm enough. And we don't have enough consistent cold weather here. And so that will stay too warm for too long. So we may have 3 or 4 days where it's cold, and then we may have another 2 weeks where it's nice and balmy, and your floor is still radiating all this heat.
Yeah, my primary question about that wasn't as the primary source of heating, but just to have heated floors in and of itself, whether it's a bathroom or just a certain section of the home for somebody with disabilities.
That's what we used to do. I mean, that's where it started. And you're right. And I would have clients go, particularly the wife. The husband, he doesn't care. But the wife is like, I love this Roman bathroom, but boy, is it cold.
Right. That's, and a lot of bathrooms now have stone floors instead of carpet.
Yeah.
And that's where it makes a big difference. It's just the floor in the bathroom's warm.
Yeah. So Donnie, does it seem to you like there's a lot more people purchasing property acreage? I mean, you're pretty busy right now.
Well, you got to understand, we're based north of the Metroplex in Sanger. So a lot of the areas in our just rural areas. So we have a lot of people coming in from the Metroplex and moving up from the Metroplex or different areas of the country wanting land. They don't want to, live within a couple of feet of the next door neighbor.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a good influx of that, but at the same point, you see a huge increase in cost of land.
Yeah.
I thought it went up to about $25,000 an acre 5 or 6 years ago. Man, that's capping it.
Really?
Well, now they're getting between 55, 65, almost 100,000 per acre for land for the small tracts up in.
Wow, that's amazing. Is that a developed tract?
That is a farmer cut his land, or his son or daughter cut the land up to where, we have 100 acres. Let's cut it into 10-acre tracts or 5-acre tracts, and let's sell it off and make our money and go. That's what we're saying.
Wow. I'd do the same thing at that price.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to understand it. But I mean, the other thing is that we've got a lot more technological advances in building that you can actually build out there and be a lot more comfortable than you used to be. You don't have to depend on the fireplace for the heat, and you have alternative sources for power. And we're just better at building them. You know, people like Donnie just build these super, super high quality houses. We are out of time already. That was it.
That was quick.
That's quick. That was fun. I really appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. And Steve, I'm sorry we didn't get more time with you.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
Blame the traffic.
Yep.
Next week, we're going to have a really interesting show. We're going to have Ross Mason-Robbie, with Earth X. We're going to talk about the upcoming Earth X event and some of the things that they have going on. That starts actually next month, which is always fun. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to have the Tiny Home folks, Terry Landtrip and B.A. Norgard. I'm really looking forward to having them on. They're always fun. We do this at least once a year with them. And I've had a great day with you today. I really appreciate you being with us. I appreciate Mr. Ziggy Becker with On Air Media taking care of us, and I appreciate our sponsors. Thank you so much. And of course, our audience, thank you so much for watching and following and staying with us. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good week.
The views and opinions of this program are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended to replace the recommendations of a hired professional. You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.